what you're doing is you're taxing your system, and your old programming is saying, all right, stop. Hey, welcome back to Uncivilized Rebirth. Here's a place that I hope you find a voice of reason and rationale and tools to help you on your healing journey. I know that my healing journey has been wrought with difficulty, pain, heartache, but there was healing at the end. What I discovered was everything that I was searching for led me to put together my own program. I had to piece it together myself and figure out how to heal myself. And now that I'm there, the reason I'm doing this is to help other people that have been through what I've been through, and to help them create a version of themselves that is empowered, that is strong, and that is not based on your history. And the version of me now is like not based on my history or my past, because that was the foundation we were built on a broken childhood. And to give you a little insight into my childhood, the best I can understand what my mother was a parasitic covert narcissist. Basically somebody who always needed sympathy, who was very hidden in their abuse, and just fed off of my pain and suffering. From a very early age, my mother would tell me about how lucky I was that I wasn't being killed, how other parents killed their children. She used religion to abuse me. She would convince me I couldn't be saved. And I was a little boy in tears in church, crying, begging Jesus to save me. And this was years of this. When I first chose to join the military when I was 16, it was my escape. And I told her, and she straight up told me, she said, "You won't have a home to come back to." And just started telling me how I was going to be a failure and a washout. And these are just little bitty glimpses out over about 18 years of just abuse, horrible abuse and neglect. And even into my adult life, when she found an opportunity, she would say something and manipulate a situation to try to make me look like a bad person. And then somebody else would come up like, "Your mother said this." It's like, well, she's a terrible person, but she's hid it very well. Very, very well. And then one time, a friend, when I came back, I think from my first tour, I think a dude I knew from high school, I went to private school for 2 years. He said, "I ran into your mom at Chick-fil-A and I told her you had deployed, and she broke down crying in the middle of Chick-fil-A, like crying." And I laughed. I was like, that's because she wanted attention. She wanted to try to make anything look like she was the victim and she was the sad one. She would write me letters overseas and I would open it up and rip it up. Never even read them. She would get me stupid shit for Christmas over the years. This is years ago. And I would leave her trailer and I would throw it in the trash can. That's right where it went. And so as a little boy, I was broken. I was wounded. And I had no solid foundation. And that's what I was building on. Nothing. So even like in the Bible, it talks about you have to build on a solid foundation, or even anybody with logic or common sense knows that if you're going to build a house, you have to have a foundation that is solid. And for a human, it's the same thing. Our character, how we respond in situations, how we view ourselves, how we navigate the world, that's a foundation that's built in childhood. And when it's created in a way of, you are a pathetic person, I get to do anything I want to you, you have no rights, you have no boundaries, you have no autonomy, it's just builds a person that's just weak and broken. And I had to get to the point of forgiveness, for one, of everything she did for so many years, just forgiveness and just let her go. because me being angry at her, and I'm sharing this for you, because I've seen many other YouTube videos where people talk about the scapegoat, the parent narcissist, and the black sheep of the family, and their whole identity becomes identifying this family structure that they grew up in. And we can get stuck there. But if we don't forgive them and be like, hey, I forgive you. Now I'm going to be myself. I'm going to choose who I become from here on out. And in my previous 2 videos, and that's kind of laying the foundation of how broken I was. And I'm not even telling you 1/1000th of the stories I could tell you from my childhood. But it's not necessary. We can just start with the basis of, I was broken as fuck and I'm fixed as fuck now. How did I get fixed? Well, the last 2 videos I talked about reprogramming memories. And then the last one I talked about building a character sheet and a symbol. Now I'm going to talk about how do you implement that? Like, what does that look like when you lay out this architecture or structure of this is the character I want to be, this is how they conduct themselves, and this is how they do it. This is how they do life, basically. How do you implement that? Do you just read it all the time? Do you just think about that symbol and let that stuff populate all the time? Yes, that's one way to start obsessing about it. You literally have to obsess about it. But then the next part, you have to make sure your mind has the default mode of this is how I'm going to act in the most stressful situations. Let's say, for instance, like for me, I have cut these people out of my life completely. For you, you may still be going to family get-togethers. And I know for me in the past, I would go to one and it would affect me for weeks and weeks because those parents, they know our weaknesses. They knew the horrible things they did, and they know perfectly how to drop those little phrases to just send us in a spiral for weeks. What they get to do is sit back and say, look at them. They can't get their act together. They're not stable. When in reality, they are taking a trauma they did and they're basically pressing a button in our brain with those words to replay those wounds and that pain and that suffering. They are wicked people. You got to get that through your mind first too. It's like, these people are wicked. If you're the scapegoat or the black sheep of a family, those people were wicked. You do not have to go see them. But if you do and it sends you into a spiral, you're like, I always react. I step in these situations and I act this way and I don't want to. I get tired of it. Well, you have to start training yourself to conduct yourself in a manner. I didn't turn that light on and I'm not going to do it. We're just going to roll with it. You have to train yourself to conduct yourself in the manner of that new character in an extreme situation when you are in duress. So how do you put yourself in duress? Physical exercise. That's how you do it. It's a safe way to do it. And then on top of that, you'll see where I'm going to build this. You have to do breath work, and I will talk about that. And, tapping. I had a little burp. I'm so sorry. And tapping to set up an external trigger to trigger the symbol and all the information about that character. So let me try to build this out for you. If you go ahead and put yourself in a situation where you are taxed and your body is in panic mode, that's in a safe environment, that's the perfect time to conduct yourself in the manner that this new character would conduct themselves. Because let's say you get in that family situation and you've been doing your training in intense situations, exercising to be this character. Now all you're having to deal with is words you've been working on reprogramming the memories, and it becomes a lot easier because you're not under physical duress. If you can choose to be this character in physical duress on purpose, you're going to easily be able to choose to be that character when you're around the other people or other situations that are presented by other people. So I'm going to encapsulate this here now. And I hope that makes sense on why to do this next part. Breath work. Energy runs up the spine to your brain, and we have to capture that energy. But how do we get more oxygen to the brain? Also, to get our brain to be doing what we want it to do instead of going down those old neural pathways. Well, it's important to send more oxygen to the brain so it can operate and send energy directly to the brain. Energy follows awareness. If you follow any of Joe Dispenza's teachings and you do his work that he teaches, you will learn that energy follows awareness. So a perfect way, and this is going to be a basis of it, is to tighten all your bathroom muscles and your abdominal muscles. Try to touch your belly button to your spine. Squeeze all that as hard as you can, and then fill your lungs up with air. So everything down lower is tight, and then your lungs are being filled up, and then you squeeze tighter, and you're forcing oxygen into your system. And if it's this same time, you're looking at that symbol in your mind, all of your character information is populating in your brain. And it's like, oh, this is the codex for how to conduct ourselves or how to conduct this human body. But you're also sending all this oxygen to the brain, making it easier to operate. And the brain needs oxygen and energy because when you draw something in your mind, you're using energy. It's not magic. It's not invisible stuff. It's actually there. It's energy that you can see with your mind's eye. And that's going to your brain, and that's where you want to send it. So in the next video, I will get a little more in depth with building in a tap. But right now, we're going to keep it simple. So here, you got your breath work where you're tightening your core, you're taking a big lung full of air, and then you're imagining that symbol, tighten your core, forcing energy to your brain, forcing oxygen to your brain, and you're basically supercharging your biomechanical processing unit to do what you want it to do. You're taking control of your systems under duress. When do you do this? I highly suggest either getting on a seated bike at a gym or on a row machine. I think those are like the easiest, hardest things you can do. But the goal is to push yourself to exhaustion. So when you first sit down, put it on the hardest level, and then you go until you can't do it anymore. But first, watch a YouTube video, proper form, so you don't hurt anything. But use proper form, and you go as hard as you can. And right when you want to quit, and you're like, oh, I'm done. That's the old version of you. That's the version we don't want to be. The version that was built on a weak foundation that can't push through adversity. What you're doing is you're taxing your system, and your old programming is saying, all right, stop. But here's where free will kicks in. You are free to get off that bike and stop pushing hard. You're free to get off the row machine or the elliptical machine and stop trying as hard as you can. You're also free to do this. Right when you are in panic mode from going as hard as you can and you're ready to quit, ask yourself, why do I want to quit? Would the character that I designed quit? Then you take that deep breath while you're tightening your core. You tighten your core even harder. You imagine your symbol, and that character is going to populate. And you choose that this character would go longer. If you go 10 seconds longer, that means that you have stepped into new territory past where you would have quit. You don't have to go 10 more minutes or an hour or anything. Just 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Remember that time that you went past? And then the next time, you push as hard as you can. If hard as you can the first time is 2 minutes, and you go an extra 10 seconds, that's success. You're programming in this new character each time you go further. So when you're on the row machine or the bike or the elliptical and you're just taxed out and you're just panting and you're dying, but the thing is you're not dying. This is the perfect time when you've put yourself under duress to use your free will to choose to conduct yourself as the new character that you've created. And every time you do that, you're teaching your brain, when I get into duress and I start to panic, I take a deep breath and I focus on this character and I go a little further. So you can take that and apply it into your stressful situations in life. Let's say with your old family members you might be around that are extremely triggering, which I'm going to be honest, you should not be around them anyway. You owe them nothing. You take a deep breath. You focus on that character. You focus your energy up there. You see that symbol. All that character's information populates. Okay. I'm going to leave now. Okay. I'm glad you feel that way. And you respond in a new manner. In a manner that is dignified and that can't be manipulated or used against you. And in a manner that you're proud of. You're like, hey, I actually made a difference in myself in the way I reacted. I didn't follow these old programs, which are neural pathways. You're developing your own neural pathways. I'm going to end this in just a minute. So programming in this character and your symbol and doing your breath work under duress sets you up for success in other areas. Because you're the one getting your heart rate tacked out. You know, your mind's in panic mode. You're wanting to quit and you're choosing what example you're going to follow, which is that character you made. And what you're doing is you're creating these new neural pathways that are designed to emulate that character that you designed. I hope that makes sense. In the next video, I'm going to go a little more in depth about programming in tapping with the symbol, with the breath work, and with all the character information. And what that is doing is you're programming a new spot into your mind. That's where your codex is of how you conduct yourself. And you're creating new neural pathways. And with this, if there's anybody following this work, make sure you're taking a vitamin B complex. You're eating leafy greens, a lot of them, you know, like spinach, kale, what's the other thing? Broccoli, or get like a super greens supplement that you can take, because your brain, now you're doing the work on your brain. Like you're going in there and you're rewiring it. And so you got to be feeding it all the stuff it needs to grow and develop those new pathways. Don't forget to hydrate. If I could suggest something, stay away from sweet teas, Cokes, carbonated beverages, anything that's not water, stay away from it. Now, I do take a pre-workout, and one day I'm going to get into those and how that helps and how I do that and the supplements that I take specifically. But for now, like, keep it simple. You know, focus on giving your brain all the building blocks it needs, because you're doing the work now. Like, this is the work. This is the work you're doing, and only you are there doing it. But the results are phenomenal. So that being said, if you're somebody that went through just a horrific childhood, this is the way to rewrite your character reel and be free of all that. Forgive those people, reprogram your memories, and become a version of yourself that you never could have imagined yourself being. And you're going to free yourself and step into your own power in a way that you can't imagine. I'm going to end the video now. I hope this was helpful, and the next video is just going to build on this video and the last two videos. And basically every video is a building block in the stuff that I teach. Roadhouse, Spiritual Heart. I'm ending the video now.